Thank you, Marius and James, for joining in on the Twitter space with MintGate. I just wanted to, I know that we have been in talks for a while now, and I just wanted definitely to learn more about your background and, what's really the mission of Bookvolts.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm James Factor speaking. I'm a publishing director for an indie publishing house by day, and English lit, creative writing. So been in the publishing world for about 5-6 years now, and just looking to expand into the NFT world as well.
Yeah, and so James and I are actually friends from like high school, so we've known each other for close to 20 years now, or more than 20 years. And we're also flatmates, so it's quite cool to set up a project and a business together. So my background is more tech and business. So I've been in the kind of tech startup world for about 5-6 years now. So it's a nice coming together.
Yeah.
How did you guys both get into the blockchain space?
So I think it was before even the blockchain. What we realized is more, the problem we started off to solve was more from the kind of author and the traditional publishing point of view. And then blockchain just kind of seemed to be the perfect solution for it. So maybe the good place to start is actually, like what the problem we're trying to solve, and then once you've actually got that problem in front of you, the blockchain just seems to be the perfect solution for it. So maybe James, this is James's space, so he knows it much better.
Yeah, sure. So I think with authors at the moment, I think obviously Amazon is a big player in the ebook and the print space, the print on demand, and I think that at the moment authors are obviously very dependent on Amazon. And when people think of ebooks or digital books, they just think about Kindle Unlimited, pages read, streaming, and I think all authors really feel actually that the writing that they're doing is sort of been undervalued at the moment in the business. Advances, even from the traditional publishers, advances are way down from what they were even 10, 20 years ago. And a lot of authors don't even make out those advances once they sign for a publishing house. So combining that with, I guess, royalty rates, which are, with print it's about 10%, and an ebook it can be a bit more, but generally I think authors feel that they're not getting their fair share. So the blockchain was great because it was addressing this kind of wild west world of digital publishing where you could download a book for basically free. And this is a great solution because authors can put their work out there and protect it and have a great relationship with their readers and speak to them and offer them something that no one else can get. So it's sort of reversing that trend of access to everything, and really trying to reclaim that space for authors to do some exciting work in, not just their writing, but they can enhance different aspects of their worlds. They can include illustrations, they can do interviews, audio. I mean, there's a huge amount of potential out there, but it's all based around this idea that readers want to feel like they're supporting the authors they love. And the best way that they can do that is to have an author who's offering a select few NFT tokens for their work. So if there's 100 or 1,000 or however many it is, if they own one of those tokens, they're going to feel a great connection to the author, and the author's going to get that 80% royalty rate right directly to them. So it's a really great solution to both of those issues as a sort of starting point in the whole territory.
Yeah, what really strikes me as interesting, as you mentioned, like a book NFT almost enhances a book. So in your opinion, and also you mentioned, authors can, offer audio illustrations. So do you think like a book NFT actually has a different definition than just like a book that we normally kind of see?
For sure. I mean, like James and I disagree on this, but I like to think of an NFT book as an augmented ebook. So, it's not just about the actual print, but it's about everything else which can go around it. And it's also in terms of, like what types of packages you can create as well. It doesn't just have to be one commoditized, product. It actually becomes not only an amazing thing which you can consume, so like an amazing piece of literature, but then like all these kind of like, digital first editions with special like little swag packs, like you said, like, the map, the illustrations, the character list, like there's so many. Also, like we're thinking like, why not including Zoom calls with the author? Like there's so many ways which you can push it, and it's really all about increasing proximity between the author and their fans or their reader base as well.
Yeah, I think like from how you're describing it, I really like the idea of the reader actually be part of different, like part of the community. I know like I grew up really loving to read books as well, and the community I could be part of just book clubs, but I think this is kind of more than just book clubs. Like what else do you think book NFTs, which like what else, how else do you think like book NFTs will mean for readers? What do book NFTs mean for readers?
Yeah, so I mean, like before we kind of go into the social aspect, like at its real core, it's just all about that proximity between the author and the reader, because it's basically the author which is selling directly to their fans and actually creating that, instead of all these gatekeepers taking up like 90% of the business or even marketing the books. Like right now, authors are becoming so smart at engaging with their audiences, kind of marketing to their audiences, and this basically gives them a channel to interact with them directly. So right now it's just basically, at its very core, it's just a token and then an asset behind it. But like, on either end of that, it's basically just a reader interacting directly with the author. And then if you can increase the conversation, the social aspect down the line as well, like that's where it becomes so powerful.
I think just Jennifer on what you were saying about it being like a different format, that we shouldn't really think of it as ebook or print in a way, is that I think it can really kind of integrate itself into the publishing industry in a way that doesn't really cannibalize anything. Like we're talking about the issues that Amazon has, and we all know that there are issues, but it does a good job as well. Like it gets more writing out there, and it promotes stuff. But I think the way that NFT could work is in a way things like kind of pre-order for a print edition that doesn't clash with the print book, or if a publishing house can't afford to do a print run, which is a lot of books get pulped and there's quite a lot of waste with that. It's something that can kind of slot into these different spaces as well. So it's really exciting. It's not really. I think it's more similar to print actually than ebook in that way, because it's kind of offering a commodity and a special kind of edition that we haven't really seen before. And I don't think it's going to destroy. We don't want to destroy print or ebooks. We just want to offer this closer connection that authors and readers seem to have, and to grow that.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Like you're mentioning how like the book itself, like there used to be different editions of a book. So I guess like what's your, as like an NFT book publisher, what's your role and how are you guys different than a traditional publisher?
I mean, to start with, I think what we want to do is really speak to the indie author market initially. I think that's the way to begin it, because they're the ones that are producing work kind of on their own, and they're doing a lot of work to get their books off the ground in that space, and also they are very savvy with the digital marketing sides of publishing, and even indie publishers as well, smaller publishers are much more versatile and adapt at really responding to these trends. So I think we would position ourselves, predominantly as the publisher, and we would bring in authors who are keen to do this and create partnerships through that, and start to grow that platform for them to advertise their work, and to have the NFTs available on, and then from there we just want to keep enhancing that platform.
If I can jump in as well, like for us, it's almost a two-step problem. So the first one is enabling these indie, or like just indie basically means independent publishers or independent authors. So these independent authors to publish on, like, through this new technology on this new platform. And, down the line, we kind of see this as like, we don't want to be the gatekeeper in this industry. Like, we want to kind of create a format where we empower any sort of author to publish on the blockchain. And, down the line, really where we want to focus on is also the experience for the reader. So how can we create a whole ecosystem where readers can consume, these kind of new formats like digital books, the maps, where everything kind of comes together, and basically have like this augmented book platform with like NFTs being a huge part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah, definitely does make sense. I guess like the other question that I also had as well is like, I know that there's like people think I know as books as a public good, or some people might argue that some of the classics, like the first classic that you guys published, Robin Crusoe, is like are in the public domain. I think like why should authors make this move and work with you guys or create book NFTs?
I think, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think there's two sort of different strands to that answer. I think on the classic side that you were sort of alluding to, I think, as I was saying before, our aim is to not like destroy easy access to some of these editions that are there if people want that. I think what we want to do with the classics really is just to try and give these books a kind of new lease of life and like a new makeover, and encourage collaboration on them to start with. And we've done that with Luke Hesbar, our designer for the Robinson Crusoe cover. And we don't want to shy away from that whole world, because we're aware obviously that art and music have really made leaps ahead of us and ahead of the publishing world. So we want to see really what we can do in that space and try and combine those worlds of artwork and illustration and see what the possibilities are. And who knows, in the future, I think it's a great way to also just introduce academic discussion on these classics, reevaluating them. What's their context today? How should we read a text like that now? And we can get young academics involved to give prefaces to these works and get them to be part of the collaboration. So I think that on the classics public domain work, that's what we really view as the future. And then with, as we were saying, with authors who, I mean, why would they do their next work with us, for example? I think I've said, it's not trying to we're not trying to limit them from doing other things as well if they want to. But I think it'd be really exciting to see one day an author do their work entirely in this format. We've seen recently, I think Salman Rushdie is announcing his new book is coming out on Substack, which is a sort of newsletter platform. It's getting a lot of subscribers, and he's felt restricted for a long time, I think, in what he can say and discuss and how he reaches his readers. And I see no reason why NFTs can't do exactly the same thing and actually enhance it a lot more than just being, not to dismiss Substack, but just more than just a newsletter that comes out every week. We can add everything we've said to an NFT token and build on that.
Yeah, I think that that's like the possibilities of adding unlockable content, which I know that you guys have also like delved into, is I think really adds the possibilities of what authors can do with their work. And also one thing that you also had kind of touched upon is the possibilities for collaborations too, right? Like definitely can see an author and illustrator kind of working together and releasing works together, and as a result, creating an NFT that can lock like all that content into one NFT.
For sure. And I mean, like, it's something which we see a lot in the art world, in the fashion world, like even in brands, that kind of like cross pollination of ideas, and like different artists and different creatives getting involved. And once again, this is just a new medium, and there's just so many ways which you can push it and get different, like even different authors collaborating on a piece of work, for instance, together. And like, how can we push the form? how can we push the concept of what a book is? Like, I think this is something which we can really start thinking about and exploring as well. So it's really cool, like artistic medium as well, not just for like existing books or replicating an existing media, but also creating new formats.
Yeah, I think that's like really an interesting perspective is, NFTs can create like ultimately turn books into a new format.
Yeah, I think, and also like we haven't discussed video really at all either in this, and how that can interplay with enhancing, like Marius was saying, pushing what a book is or what a book is going to be in the future, and what the ultimate medium is going to be that's the best way to tell a story. We definitely at the moment, obviously, we're doing the written word, and we want to make that look as great as possible when we produce these. But the future is, for sure, to have video artists and people come in and offer their interpretation of an author's work, and work through things that way, because the cover, it's always been the case that the cover design for any book really is so crucial to selling it in publishing. And I think that if you could come up with a format which, obviously, people love the visual element of books already. I think if you can add several different visual effects to a book that can sell it as well, I think that's really exciting, and I think that's the kind of direction that it's moving towards anyway. So it'd be great to be part of building that from the start.
You guys actually just recently launched your first book NFT, and it does have a really good visual behind it. I was very curious, when you first launched it, what were some aspects that you thought about incorporating to increase the possibility of it being sold?
Well, I think the first thing is just, as you mentioned, so it's just the artwork and the fact that we collaborated with. This is also an amazing thing about the NFT space, just how collaborative everyone is. So Luke, who's the designer, and like he's been amazing. He's taught us so much about the NFT space, and like honestly, like to have a little video, a little animation like that, which looks so good for the book. Like that's the first thing. In terms of after, so we mentioned about different types of add-ons which we could have, whether it could be academic inputs on it, a little a map. And it's also something which we see as, it's just because we kind of create it once, we meant like that format can evolve as well. So it can chop and change the actual like content within it. It can chop and change. We can add things to it. We can make it evolve. It can be like every week it can have something a little bit different added to it. So that's also part of what we find so cool about this format.
Yeah, I think you actually James. I think you, Marius, actually you cut off just 1 second there. Could you just repeat just like the first part that you said?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, one of the things which has really like amazed us about this space is just how collaborative it is. And for instance, we were mentioning Luke, like how easy it is to get to to kind of meet new people in this space, to work together, to try new things, to like test different formats out. And for us, coming from like quite traditional industries, it's been such a breath of fresh air. And like a big part of this book as well, let's be honest, it's just like the big novelty of it is also the cover design. The fact it looks amazing, it's kind of like animated. For us, that in itself is just a huge, like, I can't think of many other digital or like PDFs or even kind of like written format with even just a video cover. So I think that's already one of the first of its kind sort of thing.
Yeah, you made a good point. It's something that I actually didn't realize until you had mentioned. Everyone can actually go to Bookvolts' Twitter and actually see the cover, see the link of the Robinson Crusoe NFT, and it actually is more so like a GIF or a moving cover. And that's really interesting because I'm thinking like you can even bridge into other NFT formats such as a video and audio. Almost you can create like video books, audio books, previews of the book, and then have the actual written portion of it as an unlockable content.
Yeah, that's right. I think like it's very much up to the author what they what their vision is, and if they'd ever wanted to get involved with an artist to discuss their work, then they can do that. But then again, we, like you just said, Jennifer, we can include unlockable content that isn't available, for example, in future editions in the ebook or the print version of it. And I think that's it's not detracting from the print or ebook that comes out. I think it's just saying to fans, if you want to have this extra bonus material, whether it be a sort of a hidden chapter or a glossary or something else that the author wants to add, then it can be as simple as that, But before NFT technology, it's never really been possible to do something like that before, and to enhance stories in that way, and to create that connection between fans and an author.
Yeah, I really think I love the idea of just enhancing the story, you really giving readers, a different connection to the author. I know that we have a couple of new listeners who just came in recently. Marius and James, would you be able to just, give a high level of what is Bookvolts, what you guys are working on, and what problems you guys are facing, again, for our new listeners?
Yeah, sure. So Bookvolts is really trying to put books and publishing into the NFT space, essentially, and we think that this is the best way to really overcome some of the kind of decline in royalties and advances, and a general just connection between an author and fans, which has started to really develop in publishing. I think for all the benefits of the Kindle unlimited streaming service, it has essentially I think kind of devalued the writing to an extent. And we haven't even discussed if, for example, if you lose your Kindle, or if Amazon for whatever reason was to go down, or there were problems with it, then you don't really own the ebook. It's kind of Amazon's property that you just rent, and so it's kind of people have just accepted this as being the digital world of books, and I think we both wanted to really address that and give some authors control over their product and some ownership. So we're looking to really readdress that balance. We want to give authors 80% of sales on these tokens, and we want them to have different packages available for what they want to do with their own books. And through that, the authors we're targeting, specifically indie authors, independent publishing houses, who are great at developing that relationship anyway between readers and fans and authors. Just to use that, authors have great platforms at the moment, and they can speak to their readers far better than they could have done even 5 years ago. So it's putting all this together and saying, let's just give authors the chance to do that. We'll create the content that they want. We can enhance it with all kinds of different visual effects and illustrations and chapters and plot points, and then we'll just put the two together, and we'll start to kind of publish books in this format.
Yeah, and then that also leads us to the blockchain, which is the perfect technology for this, because it basically just increases the proximity between the author, basically just empowers the author to go direct to his readership, and to cut out those gatekeepers in the middle who currently are taking up 90% of basically all revenues and sales from the author's work. So there's that as well. And something we haven't actually spoken about so much, Jennifer, is also our take on NFTs and moving it into the consumable space. So we see this as something which is not just a collector item. It's very much something to be consumed. So something to be bought, to be read, and then it can be kind of traded, or it can be stored, or it can be collected. But really, at our core, what we're trying to do is to take this format and then turn it into something which is consumable, rather than just a collectible.
Yeah, and can you just talk a little bit more about that consumption, for a reader? What does that mean? How is the experience different?
Well, I guess kind of fundamentally, when you buy a book, it's to read it. It's not to at its most basic. It's you buy a book to read it, to consume what's inside of it, and then then you can put it on your bookshelf, or you can sell it, or you can trade it, or you could gift it to a friend. And really, it's only like that, if we kind of understand the true utility, and we come from a utility first kind of perspective, that we can actually create this format that has its place next to, for instance, a Kindle or a standard book. And that's really like, the essence of a book is its readability, and like we just don't want to lose that aspect. We don't want to be all about just kind of creating something to be collected.
Yeah, it sounds like we might just be trying to just carve up an author's work and put a video in and add all kinds of tricks and stuff to try and make something different and say it's special. But I think that obviously we're focusing primarily on the readability of it, how it looks in, and hopefully we can get to the stage where we actually develop a reader for this kind of work, and we can really enhance how that consumption takes place. But I think for now, it's just about making sure that the book itself looks great, looks readable, to a really high standard, and then we can add on these other parts as well when authors request it.
It almost feels like the initial part is to make it more like a collectible, like something you want to kind of have in your wallet or on your profile. And kind of the next step is to get people really interested in book NFTs, and then making it, a very consumable product. I mean, I know that you guys had made it, a very delightful experience actually to actually see those. Read those books, but it almost seems that there's kind of this process where you are making it very almost like a collectible item, but like eventually that collectible item kind of inspires more people to want to read and want to be part of that experience.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to shy away from that side of it either. I think that for indie authors that are getting into this space and growing, we want obviously that NFT kind of excitement to really bring NFT collectors to authors. That's the whole that's one of the attractions of this, is that we think that in the same way that podcast listeners are now moving across to audiobook, it's just about mediums that you can tap into and then bring them to the publishing world, because we want to keep primarily we want to improve and update the publishing world and the authors and how they react to it. So we don't want to, we definitely want to encourage that, and we want to stress that there is this resale element to these books, and that this hasn't been done before. So it is exciting. Robinson Crusoe, we picked it because it was the first novel in its day. It's considered the first novel format. We wanted to just use that because we think this is a new format. It's the start of a new format developing. So we want people to see that value as well. But we want to stress also that it is about author control in this matter, and having their relationship with readers develop, and just increasing their readership through this new format. We don't know how it's going to cross over, but we want to give it a go and bring in those NFT collectible fans, that new market. We want to bring them into publishing, and we think this is the best way to do it, because, like you said, in audio and podcasts, they've all come across to audiobooks now, so why can't it work in this way as well?
Awesome. And I know that you guys, so hello everyone, welcome to the future of ebook NFTs with Bookvolts and MintGate. And also, we really encourage you guys to follow Bookvolts as well. They actually just launched their first book NFT. Anyone who does end up winning the auction will get access to a copy of Robinson Crusoe. And I know that you guys had first launched that first NFT. Like, what was the experience like, and what do you guys think you guys will do differently in the next launch?
Well, to be honest, it's just a massive learning curve. And so Jennifer, I just want to take this moment as well to say thanks so much for helping us through this, kind of being that we've just learned so much in the past 2 months. That learning curve has been so steep, making so many mistakes, as you can probably tell, Jennifer, with all these kind of minting and burning of various test ones. So yeah, there's been a lot of learning how this works, learning the difference between all the different blockchains, the ecosystems, the protocols, for instance, Ethereum versus Polygon, So yeah, I just say it's kind of like, you know, it's just one big learning curve, and we're kind of getting to the point now where we feel like, yeah, okay, we understand the ecosystem, we've got a good idea of like, you know, what will work, what won't work. I think also, you know, for instance, even until 2 3 days ago, I mean, our plan was to mint on Polygon, and then we realized that we can actually launch an auction on it. You know, it's like a day before you launch, you're like, oh right, okay, and then like everyone's telling us, well, you know, your first auction or the first NFT you create, you should really do Ethereum. So had like kind of last minute change on that. So, you know, once again, it's just kind of like, it's fun, it's exciting. It's kind of like, you know, we learn as we go along, and even like, you know, this space is just changing so rapidly that it's really exciting to be part of it.
And what's really funny about that, I'm really surprised that someone had told you like your first NFT should be on Ethereum, because I think everyone is starting to form different opinions on how to do things on the blockchain, like how to mint NFTs, where to mint them. It's just almost like there was kind of a standard at one point, like everyone was minting on a certain platform or on a certain blockchain. But I think that now everyone's starting to form their own opinions, because there's so many different platforms, there's so many different blockchains on there. So I think like definitely experiment with a lot of different blockchains and with different platforms, just because I think that you'll like run into different audiences, you run into different people, as well as I think like your authors might have different preferences as well. For example, if you were to tell me like authors want to make sure that people aren't paying as much gas fees, I definitely recommend you Polygon. But no, if they're more caring about their like reputation and making sure that their first NFT is like kind of a lot of blue chip blockchain, then on Ethereum. But it's very interesting how, you know, people have kind of formed their own opinions. I would say like when you minted your first NFT on Polygon, like I did that did not come across to me as like, oh, as a big red flag. You guys should have minted on Ethereum. So like that's like so I have a different opinion, right? So like that's really crazy.
No, no, we're not.
That's really crazy.
We're not blaming you, and I think like, you know, we want, like, we see ourselves building this long term on Polygon because it just makes more sense, especially if you like compare the economics of a book, where, you know, if you want to sell an NFT book for, let's say, $5 10, you know, you can't do that on Ethereum, but you can on Polygon. So that, and also, you know, you mentioned it as well. Like, let's be honest, the whole kind of like blockchain space, it's pretty scary space, especially for someone who knows nothing about it. So we kind of see our role, at least initially as well, is kind of, you know, navigating authors through this, you know, through this new technology, you know, walking them through it, helping them publish, helping them understand, you know, like what's right for them. And, you know, like this is, I mean, it's still something which, you know, I think, let's be honest, everyone's getting to grips with. And, you know, I think that's a big value add as well, which we can give authors. It's kind of like, okay, explaining like all these mistakes which we're making right now, where we're doing it for the benefit of our future authors.
You guys are doing a really good job. I would give you guys credit for, you know, thinking of, you know, this use case and, you know, just like tackling it and just seeing like what you can build. Like I said, I encourage everyone to follow Bookvolts on Twitter. And this is my last question before I kind of open it to the audience. I know you guys have been waiting patiently. I've been listening in for quite a little bit, but I guess like, you know, any upcoming authors that you're onboarding or books that you're going to release soon?
Yeah, so actually we have we've got a few authors in the pipeline who we want to start developing pretty soon. We're actually going ahead with the first author who's writing at the moment is James Fahey, and he's done a wonderful sort of fantasy YA series called the Changeling series. So the first book is Isle of Winds, and we're just putting all of those touches together now for him, and we're hoping to release that shortly, hopefully in the next sort of week or two, once we've got everything ready. But we've I mean, he's having showed him the Bookvolts website now with all the details, I think he now gets it, but initially he did not get it at all. So it's taken that a step to get him up to speed, but now that he's so enthusiastic. He's sent in all kinds of different glossaries and descriptions of characters that he's never put out there before. So we're really excited to put it all into one space, and just go from there. Yeah, and then once we've got that one ready, we'll move forward with the others we've got lined up as well.
That's amazing. I almost kind of see you guys creating like a playbook, just kind of like a standard for everyone in the NFT, like in book publishing, like, hey, this is what we learned, and hey, this is how you should do it. That's like kind of, I think like that's really what's great about being early and being one of the first is just, having that experience.
Yeah, it is great to have an author who had never heard of NFTs before, now so quickly up to speed with it and seeing the potential of it as well. I think that for me, that was the real breakthrough moment, because we've honestly, we've done all the work to put it together, but we don't know how authors are going to react really to it. And to find out that the ones we've spoken to so far are hugely on board, and they can, they have a great following on Instagram and Twitter, and they can really see how this is going to work. So I think James even put out to his fans what they would like to see in an NFT version when it was created. So he actually asked them, what should I do for this? And they gave him the feedback. So that's what we want to see, really. That's the kind of connection we want to build.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I would love to like hear one of those conversations when you're talking to an author and just kind of selling this on like NFTs. Like you have to be like really a certain type of author to still like just to still like want to try it out. And also, yeah, I think that there's a couple people who will have some questions for you guys. I'll refrain from my last question. I'll refrain from asking you about, how those conversations do like go on. But I think one person has a question, so I'll invite them to speak. If you have a question, just like, request to speak, and then I'll put you on stage. But Third Planet Studio, I think you guys had a question or a comment for Bookvolts.
Yeah, hi there. I'm Bianca, one of the owners of Third Planet Studio. And this is great to hear you guys doing this with books, because I have a cousin of mine. He's a psychology professor, and he's got a publisher, and he's always producing books. And in the beginning of us starting this company, I remember he made a joke about NFTing a book, and he had just finished one. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity, but then his publisher, they threw another one at him. But I remember him stating what a terrible deal it is. So, and he made a joke about doing the NFTs. So his aspects are, his books are for educational and school books. But the cool part of it is his wife is an artist, and she usually does the covers and the illustrations on the inside and everything. So it kind of gets the best of both worlds over there. And we actually do have an artist on board that does have a book out already on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and he's an artist also. So this is like really, really cool. I wasn't sure if we should have a department doing it, but knowing that there is an actual source to direct these type of artists or authors too is quite amazing. But
yeah, sounds great. We'd love to speak more after the show. But I think I alluded to the kind of academic space, education space, I think is really interesting for this, because it's been, and I think the people I know in academic who publish journals and stuff and essays, they really just say that it's basically them and their parents who read the journal, which is quite a depressing state. But I think that NFTing these kind of editions and bringing that kind of scholarly overview of a piece of work, and adding in like a preface or just a description at the start of it can enhance that work and bring it into like new readership, hopefully. So that sounds great.
I guess one of the questions is, most students would buy the book and then not need it again after that. So I would see that as boosting secondary sales, where they're selling it to the next round of students. But what happens when the book gets too expensive for the students to afford? Because value. I guess I didn't think about that until just now.
No, that's a really good question. I mean, the first thing just about the secondary sales is that it creates that aspect, and also it. So I mean, a big thing about student books as well is that they're very easy to, you can generally find a PDF copy somewhere, and there's generally a PDF copy being sent around the class. So this kind of stops it, and then you're right. Then it's just a question about who, you almost think that the fact that you open it up to market like this should mean that the market kind of finds itself, and something between supply and demand, and it's up to the author as well, who can actually, instead of the publisher deciding that an academic textbook should cost £100 or $100, it could actually be on the author to create a certain amount of supply so that it's actually affordable for the students. I don't know. There's it's one of those, like, you could speak about this for hours, and it's still something which we need to figure out ourselves, but no, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep in touch because we have one book that we have access to already that I know he would love to mint. And yeah, so I'll hit you up afterwards. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bianca.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for the awesome idea and question. Track, I think that you had a question as well.
Yes, yes, I did. How's everybody going? My name is Track. I'm actually a music producer, and I'm pretty new. I have a friend who's pretty deep in NFTs and DeFi, and so I've just last week's kind of been jumping in. But I saw this pop up on my timeline, and is really interesting. My my girlfriend, she's a doctor, a child therapist, and has been talking about publishing for a long time, and just hasn't found an avenue that would kind of suit her ideas. And this this seems to lend itself a little bit more to what she's trying to do. And I guess my coming from a music background and kind of exploring NFTs over the last few weeks, and kind of seeing what's going on in space, I'm kind of interested in like the way that the new mediums, art, music, and now I guess books, are starting to be able to utilize different. I guess become more flexible, and like music isn't just music; it can be videos or art, and books can now include um, different mediums, I guess, to enhance the book experience. So I don't know if I missed it. I came in a little bit late, but just like what types of things are you guys experimenting with, in terms of the releases that you're looking at? Like, are you including like different content? Like, I don't know, is the book more, I guess, 3D in life, where you have art? I saw the cover of one of the books where the water was moving. It was very interesting, but like, I guess I'm excited about the potential of the book seeming more lifelike, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like, I could not agree with you more. And I'm like, let's and actually, music is something which, yeah, so we're thinking about. So this is the first thing. It's like, you know it's augmented books. It's how can we push books and like really challenge the concept of what a book is, and like push it into a new medium sort of thing. So not only, for instance, let's say just the physical text, so like the 300-page book, but as you mentioned, the artwork, which is a hologram, or even like a 3D, or even an avatar, why not, which you can actually use in like other video games or mediums, or like video players. At its most basic, like, it's, for instance, fantasy novels. How can you include special maps which have never been seen before, or like Zoom calls with the author, where the purchaser of an NFT book actually has, like, every year they can log into a Zoom call and the author will be there for them. So it's like, how can you add these like extra, like, basically like extra swag on it, sort of thing. And I mean, music is something which we've not, we've kind of talked about a little bit in the past. We haven't done it. And if you fancy collaborating on project, I mean, we absolutely love to maybe push that concept. And did you say it was your sister who's looking to do this?
It's actually my fiance. She's really interested in publishing, and yeah, I've just been trying to think of different avenues where it makes sense. But I naturally, as a composer, a scoring composer and producer, I've wanted to kind of lend services somehow to like that augmented reality you're talking about around the books, because of the story. Soundtracking or light sound design even is pretty interesting space to see the or to, I don't know, see what can happen. But yeah, I'd definitely be interested. I follow you guys, and
Yeah, we'd love to
we can
chat more
figure it out.
about it when we get a chance. I think the benefit with blockchain for this collaboration is that the author has such a huge stake of the royalty and the sale from the start to play with. So in terms of like artists and musicians getting involved in that space, in traditional publishing you can't really do that, because after everyone's taken their cut and the printing costs and everything else, you're barely making your return as a publisher or as an author. So what we love about NFT is that the author has so much control to play with these new projects. So for sure, we it's more about really putting talented people in touch with each other and letting them develop the rates, and we want to enhance that and help that kind of transaction go ahead for sure.
Definitely, yeah. It's the same on the music side with the
Yeah.
publisher and the hands in the pot. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, thank you for this conversation. It's very dope.
Awesome. Thanks
Great.
a lot for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Track. Does anyone else have any questions? You can request to speak and I can bring you up on stage. Awesome. I think that it looks like no one else has any other questions. As I mentioned, I would encourage everyone to follow Bookvolts, which is one of the first NFT book publishers. And I think Morris and James, kind of like closing statements. I would say any other thoughts or any other points you guys wanted to mention?
Well, before that, just want to say a big thank you to you, Jennifer, and MintGate in particular. I think the way you've been so approachable, you've been a pleasure to work with, and also it's what you guys are doing as well. Actually, you're the only guys who've actually allowed us to basically publish a novel end to end on the blockchain through your basically your gated link. So your way of being able to gate content through the blockchain, which actually makes this format possible. So I just want to say thank you for that. And if anyone's actually thinking of doing a project, you guys are fantastic to work with. And just on that as well, what we've seen today with different people from different kind of projects and stuff, this space is so collaborative that we've got traditional authors, but really what excites us is just pushing that concept. And if anyone wants to get involved or try a project or do anything in any sort of way, we're just down to try new things, mint new things, try different blockchains, just kind of we're still learning and we're still new to this space. So yeah, just get in touch, and we want to work with as many different people as we can.
Yeah, I can't beat that. I completely agree. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you so much for utilizing MintGate. And yeah, that's really the point of our project, is just being able to allow projects like yours to really think about different possibilities and different utility use cases for NFTs. And I mentioned unlockable content a couple of times because that's kind of how MintGate does it, is you can gate content in this context, and you can gate a PDF of a book with an NFT. So ideally, someone could buy an NFT behind it. There would just be a book behind it. But I think we enable the possibilities. I think Unlockable enable other possibilities, right? Like you mentioned, you can add a Zoom call to behind the NFT. You can add illustrations, music or videos behind it. So really, the author kind of has possibilities of also monetizing on other content that they normally have never been able to monetize because they've always been focused on books. And also, I really like the idea that you mentioned, how the book becomes more than just something that you read, but it could also include other content that we haven't just associated with books, is because there hasn't really been an easy medium to create those experiences.
Yeah, and just quickly to add to that, Jennifer, it just occurred to me that so many authors, when they write, they're heavily edited as well by publishing houses. So I've had, James Fahey, I mentioned earlier, he just mentioned how he wanted to include things that he hadn't had the chance to do before because of those limitations on the length of a book or whatever. So there's all of this other stuff. But yeah, in the traditional space, that's just a huge plus for authors as well. So it's just combining those two, I think, that so much potential.
Awesome. And with that, like, if you could onboard any author in the world, who would that be?
I think, to be honest, someone maybe like Neil Gaiman would fit. You know, if he's listening, you know, someone who, yeah, there's so much like American Gods was, you know, a favorite of mine, and just the idea of not only creating these illustrations of these characters and making them, you know, 3D, and, you know, introducing each one per chapter with a video or something like that. You know, you could really enhance the story to that with a huge amount of different mediums at play, and music as well. So you know, someone I think like that would be great.
Amazing. We've just got to mention him on Twitter across all the platforms, make sure he knows about you guys.
We'll spam him.
Yeah. Like, actually, in an NFT where how you spam someone is actually you find their Ethereum wallet address and then just send them a random NFT. That's how you spam someone.
Okay,
In
we'll do that.
the space. It does happen because I think that Elon Musk and I think Vitalik's wallet addresses are publicly available, so people just like sent them random like NFTs, random like fake Dogecoins and all that. So it does happen. So you just gotta just find his wallet address. You know, if he does have one, he might not have one, and just send those NFTs and those Dogecoins over.
He'll be hearing from us very shortly. Thank you, Jennifer, for that.
Awesome. Well, everyone, does anyone have any other questions or last comments for Marius and James of Bookvolts? Great, awesome. So I did see, Marius and James, that your DMs are not open, so you guys definitely should open them up. And then if you guys have any other questions, definitely reach out to Bookvolts directly or to MintGate, and we can also connect you to them as well. But this recording of this conversation, at least without the questions, will be posted. Will be available. So just be on the lookout for that as well.
Literally just changed that. Thanks for telling us about that, Jennifer. Yeah, anyone can message us, including, and anyone can send us free NFTs as well. We wouldn't say no to that.
Yes, yeah. Post your wallet address on. Yeah, you can actually find their wallet address on OpenSea. So yeah, send any NFTs, any Dogecoins, any other influencer coins over.
Cool. And we've just launched the Robinson Crusoe book up for auction, so the NFT book. And so yeah, if anyone has any kind of thoughts or advice, or anyone wants to check it out, just let us know. And yeah, feel free to just feel free to contact us. We're open.
Thank you, Marius and James, for joining the Twitter space with MintGate, and thank you everyone for joining as well. We'll speak to everyone soon.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks everyone as well.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Take care, guys.
Thank everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.